Folks, here we are, session number 260, I believe it is. Yeah, 260. That ain't what it say over on YouTube, but that's what it is. Session number 260 of Morning Journal. Let's get started with our first question of the day. Our first kind of official prompt. All right. So the question is, what community or scene are you plugged into and how is it helping you grow? What community or scene are you plugged into and how is it helping you grow? Let's think about that for a second. I think that a lot of times, we talk about community a lot here and how most of the time it's the case that you tap into something deeper, something more significant in community with others. You can find your way a little bit. You can find a venue for your gifts, and you can find support and guidance and encouragement and all kinds of things. And I think it's the case that a lot of times what we see as acts of genius, we see someone do some standout significant work, especially when you look in the creative field. It's like, they're just nice with it, but a lot of times that work is emerging out of a community, out of a tradition. Sometimes there is background. What do we mean? I see the exclamation points by my name. I need a little bit of clarification. What community or scene are you plugged into and how's it helping you grow? Can you not see the background? Let me know. All right, is everyone else able to see the background? Sometimes we do have some glitches. Okay, all right. So, the question is, what scene or community are you plugged into? And how is it helping you grow? So I think that a lot of times, the point that I was getting to was there are some places, like physical locations, where if you are trying to get something done, then it's good to be there. Now, it seems to be that that's less true now than it used to be in the past because we can connect virtually in a lot of different ways. But it's important not to underestimate the significance of place. If you're trying to get in the movie business, if you try to be a screenwriter, then it might be the case that you might want to go to Hollywood. You might want to go where the action is. So there's some natural places. If you're going to be in the tech industry, you might want to go to one of those places like Silicon Valley or Boulder, Colorado, or Austin, Texas, where there's a concentration of money that's dedicated towards it and talent and people. We still tend to congregate in scenes around certain industries, around certain, creative endeavors. So a lot of times when we see someone we think they're a genius, when really is a scenius. It's just a place and a group of really smart people who are pushing each other to be better and better. So what community and how is, and the second part is, how's it helping you grow? So Noble Ancient says, I'm plugged into a few communities right now. They're helping me with my skills as a game designer. I found them in researching social media to try to find help for obvious reasons. Okay. Okay, so you got a couple. Uh-oh. Yeah, so online communities that you're plugged into. It's really amazing how that can happen, right? You put your you have something that you're interested in, and you can find the others pretty readily. So Alexis says that I plugged in the morning journal and it helps me grow by forcing myself to be real with myself and self-examine. Kaloli in the chat says the Spoon Fam really does help me grow creatively. Yeah, anytime you can get folks who are willing to push you a little bit, or at least hear you out, cheer you on. So my musician music Spoon Fam, I wrote 3 songs today. I hear you. There we go. It's good to be around people who inspire you. For sure. I mean, started 3 songs. So let's not get crazy. They're not done. But there you go. Yeah, even getting started. Izalco says, I'm trying to get plugged into more communities from different ethnicities. Maybe get to learn about different groups of people a little bit. Trying to get plugged in. So for Miss, the community that you're plugged into is the community health worker community and the community organizer community. Yeah, the community health worker community, the community organizer community. There's a lot of communities in there. There's a lot of communities in there. So for Marie, it is magic communities, the study of Wicca, voodoo, spirituality, etc. It's helping me grow by exercising my personal power and will, explore myself, and discover so much more about the world and psychology. All right. Well, there we go. Somebody's enjoying the vibes. Good vibes, good song, thumbs up. Thank you so much for being here over there on Twitch. Yeah, we are live on Twitch and YouTube, LinkedIn. So yeah, I think that's one of the things that is worth doing. A lot of times there's a difference. I think it was Austin Kleon. He is an author that I follow. He says, your work is a part of an ecosystem. No matter how individual you feel like your pursuit is, your work is always a part of an ecosystem. It's connected to other things, or it requires the support of other pieces, other minds, other skills to make it fully realized. So you're a part of an ecosystem. You're part of a semius. And when you are so focused on your own individual efforts and creativity, it's an ecosystem, right? An ecosystem is just about you. You're focused on your own genius, your so-called genius, without fully appreciating and acknowledging everything that supports that. And then it's an ecosystem, and there's limits to that. A scene, yes, like scene, yes. Yeah, like the genius of your scene. All right. So I encourage you, if you found a community, then continue to cultivate that community, curate that community. A lot of times you have to really be careful. It's like a garden that you're creating with the community, and you need to make sure that you are keeping it, maintaining it, getting the weeds out of there, and not letting it devolve into something that's no longer useful. You want to be able to include, you want to be inclusive, but you also want to be intentional. Like, this is what we're here for, right? You don't want to exclude anyone because of any of their kind of personal traits of, what they're, the things that they are born as and with, but you should be willing to exclude people who are not willing to show up to do what you came to do, right? It's not for everyone. So what are we here for? And then, keep working with that. Don't let the community just turn into a jungle of weeds. It's an intentional space that we are all trying to grow from. Right? Does that make sense? Let's get ready to go on to the next prompt. All right, give me 1 second. We need to fix this next prompt just a little. I need a second for the next prompt. Y'all just continue whatever y'all are talking about for just a second while I get this next prompt. Or we'll skip it for now and I'll fix it later. Let's skip it and go to the next one. All right, here we go. What have you learned recently that stands out in your mind? What have you learned recently that stands out in your mind? You can work on that. Hopefully you're in a situation where you're continuing to learn and grow. So what's the latest thing? All right, I guess Rebecca has been over to the YouTube. I've simplified my wardrobe. Usually it's just a dark t-shirt now. Leave those blazers alone. It's getting to be summertime. Thank you for stopping over. I hope you dropped a like while you were there. We are talking about what we learned recently. Y'all can drop some green hearts in the chat while you're thinking about that. Retha is here. It's good to see you this morning. So Mesmer says, what I've learned recently is that with commitment, there's no such thing as failure. There's no such thing as failure when you have commitment, because you're just gonna keep going and you're gonna keep learning. That's a great insight, Mez. Great insight. So for Noble Ancient says, I recently learned that any game I design needs at least 2 versions in order to unlock the balance. I'm always learning my craft of games and seeing everything in depth. Yeah, you're not going to get it right the first time through. It's always going to be changes, corrections, things that you need to do to improve it, to unlock the full potential of the game. And I think that's a metaphor that we can all embrace. Understanding that we're not going to, a first draft is always going to be necessary of something. It's not going to spill out of us. Whatever we're creating is unlikely that it'll spill out of us in its final form. You have to work it a little bit. And that's fine. And that takes a lot of the pressure off too, right? If you know it's going to take a few tries, it's kind of tied to what Mez was talking about, that commitment that you have to continue to work on it until it gets where it needs to be. That is what it's all about. It takes a lot of pressure off. It takes a lot of pressure off. You can relax a little bit, right? I was reading something earlier today about relaxed effort. If you can find a way to engage in an activity without the added stress, you don't burn out. Like, you can do a lot of work, and if you're doing it in a relaxed way, you don't get tired, because the stress that you have and a lot of the stories that you tell around what you have to do, they are the things that drain your energy. It's not even the work itself. It's the story around the work that tires you out, that makes you want to run to some sort of distraction. It takes just as much, it takes just as much energy to do the thing that you're distracting yourself with as it does to actually do the work itself. The only difference is the story that you have around it. That story is a powerful thing. That inner drama, right? So Alexis says, I learned that the Emperor, which is the newest roller coaster here, is 153 feet tall. And if I had to stop it at the top for an emergency, I would have to climb all that ladder to get people down. No way. No way. All right. So the thing that Rebecca's relearned is always flow, never force. That is something I had to relearn. That is something about that is something that is, like I was saying, that effort without stress, without clinging to a result. That's the result that we're clinging to is what's causing the stress. And another way that we can kind of let go of that is to understand that there are multiple paths that are available. There are multiple outcomes that are great. So our insistence on a specific outcome is equivalent to shutting down what might be better than what we were even looking for. You know, our view on what's good is limited by our experience. And there's a whole universe of experiences that are beyond our perception and understanding that we would be ecstatic to receive if we were open to it. But then we're clinging to a specific result, to a specific person, to a specific goal, and we're closing off all those possibilities and also wearing ourselves out with stress and worry in the meantime. So, you know, you can just flow. That's the thing about flow, is flow always finds the path. If you're flowing, you're going to find the path. That's the nature of things that flow. If you're forcing, you're trying to make a path when there's already one available to you, and you're burning yourself out in the meantime. And then when you get there, it's not even where you want to be. How about all that? How about all that? So Miss says that 11% of the U.S. population is living with diabetes. We need a better diet. That's something I learned recently. Miss is going to hit you with those stats. Hitting stats in the chat, hitting stats. We're getting some education in here from our community health worker. Our community health worker is here dropping those facts on us. I can appreciate that. All right, here we go. Got a couple other responses in here. Marie says, any issue anyone ever had with you wasn't a personal attack on your character. It was an issue with something you did specifically, and if you cared, you'd adjust it or explain to them that it's their personal problem. So Marie has some relationship insights. In dealing with people, a lot of times we take it personally when we shouldn't. If someone has a problem with us, we can work on things. We can come to understandings without having our entire identity tied up in the problem that we have with someone else. Our whole identity need not be in question just because of what could just be a misunderstanding. All right. Someone anonymously shared, I learned that I can no longer be close to someone I love, and it makes me sad. I learned that I can no longer be close to someone I love, and it makes me sad. Sorry that you're having to deal with that. All right. Marie says 2 hours is too short, G. Why do you say that? 2 hours is plenty. They have started doing longer, like occasionally it'll be this weird thing where the stream just keeps going. But so Tim says, something I learned recently was I got to get up and work out. Because I'm going to be gone all day. Mez like, yeah, it is too short. sometimes. Sometimes it is sometimes it is sometimes it's ponderous and we need to get out of here. Sometimes you don't even get a whole 2 hours. But I think we're in good shape today. We'll probably run the whole stream this time. I appreciate you for being here, and I'm glad that you find it useful and you find it is a place to, it is a good place. So we don't need to be giving Buster any advice in the chat. Buster was already muted. So, and has been subsequently removed by Mez. I mean, Mez is the first line of defense. Mez is plugged in and can spot trouble on the horizon sooner than most, just because, Mez knows who's who and what's what. So if Mez kicks somebody, I ain't even got no questions about it. All right. So here we go. If we're ready, we can go. We can go on to the next prompt if we're ready to do that. So we're talking about learning lessons, what we remember. This is a question sort of related to that. We're going to do this one before, but it wasn't worded properly. I had left a word out. So take just a second. I'm gonna get this last one. Don't answer just yet. We're going to reset the request box. Someone anonymously shared that I've recently found out a friend has been dishonest and not sure how I feel about it, and about them for that matter, with this knowledge. So sometimes we discover that people aren't who we think they are. And, that's going to have a negative impact on the relationship automatically, especially if it was someone that you trusted with something. I guess it doesn't hurt as bad when there aren't any stakes and you realize that, okay, well, they just, they're not that great, but it's going to be okay. But when you're tied with them in a relationship and their dishonesty has a reflection on things that matter to you and make you doubt a lot of things, it can be tough. It can be tough. So, we got the next prompt is available. We got Aunt Capone over on YouTube watching, listening in. The question that we're thinking about right now is, what person, whether they are alive now or someone from the past, would you like to apprentice with for a year? And what would you want to learn from that person? Are you willing, or are you open to the idea of being an apprentice? Are you willing to kind of sit with someone's guidance and teaching for an extended period of time so you can soak up game? Who might that be? Is there someone who you would want to learn from, who has a lot of insight and knowledge that you think would advance your creative endeavor or enhance the quality of your life in a way that matters to you? Who might that be? For Kalolo, it's like, Emo says, I would apprentice with Eve. Oh, man. And what would you hope to learn from Eve? What would Eve teach you? Sin. I want to learn from the best. Okay. So Al Capone says it would have to be Oprah. Al Capone would want to apprentice with Oprah. I can dig that. Imagine there'd be a lot that you can learn from Oprah. So Alexa says, I want to apprentice with Mr. Rogers for sure. I would learn to make real meaningful connections, to keep my kindness with difficult people, and to be more patient overall. I could learn so much from him. So an apprenticeship with Mr. Rogers. Okay. You would also learn a lot about writing too, and storytelling. That's a great one. So Val says, I would want to apprentice with my dad. I wouldn't care what I learn. I would just give anything to spend a year with him because he's gone. Yeah, just to sit with someone that isn't here anymore, not even caring what you learn. It's just about having quality time. And I think that sometimes, I think there is an inherent quality of time that you spend engaged in anything with someone if you're working with them closely. And sometimes the thing about apprenticeship is not lecture. It's not like someone is sitting there trying to necessarily sit down and tell you something. You're just there and you're watching and you're observing and you're connecting and you're just kind of soaking it in and you're just getting guidance as necessary. So I can definitely appreciate that. So that apprenticeship. Someone anonymously says that I would want to be an apprentice of Hunter S. Thompson. And I wonder what part of Hunter S. Thompson's life would you want to model? Would it be the hard drinking, hard living, swashbuckling, cocaine and liquor, the embedded gonzo journalism, riding with Hunter S? I could dig it. All right. So Miss says, I would want to apprentice with Fannie Lou Hamer. Such a powerful person. I'm tired of being sick and tired. That's her quote. I learned how to harness power. I would hope to teach her self-care, which would be a challenge for us. Absolutely. Given the work that you are pursuing, that would be a powerful person to apprentice under. All right. Goddess of Words says Mariah Elizabeth is someone who I would want to apprentice with. She's a YouTuber. So someone who's creating, what type of content does Mariah create? And I know that you are creating content and publishing on social media. Maybe YouTube is a platform that you see in your future. And a lot of times the people who we would apprentice under, they might not be doing exactly what we do, but there's just something about their approach that we can adapt to what it is that we're creating. So Noble Ancient says that for me, it would be ones like Richard Garfield, the creator of Magic, or Gary Gygax, creator of D&D. Those would be dream apprenticeships, but I really would like to pick Asmodee's Mind, as they are top insights. Yeah. There we go. That makes a lot of sense for you, Noble, with what it is that you're working on, finding some of the innovators who created the games that have become embraced, basically games that elevated to the status of being cultural phenomena. It's a great group of people that you've listed. I don't know the last person or what it has to. I know the first two games. I don't know the last one that you're speaking of, but you know. So Marie says, I would be an apprentice to Michael Jackson, well-rounded fella, very culturally aware and a perfectionist. Just a gentle soul, and not to mention the king. So I would want to be an apprentice to the king. I know there are a lot of stories about from artists, from like new artists who had an opportunity to work with him, and they just kind of marveled at his level of musical genius, and his command over his craft was unmatched. So and I think too, when we're talking about an apprenticeship, I think the difference between an apprenticeship, let's say, and a mentorship is an apprenticeship is explicitly about work. So whatever personal failings or personal issues that might have emerged in someone's life, we're looking at their work and their contribution. So a person doesn't have to be perfect to give you game. So yeah. So whatever you have to say about how a person's life ended, doesn't say that you couldn't learn something from their work and the way that they worked. So Rebecca says, for me, it would be Kanye West. Hate him or love him, he's got the Midas touch. I think that there are a lot of people who apprentice. There are sort of, for some people, there are a lot of, with certain types of work, you can learn so much from their work without even being in their presence. But in all the stories that you hear about him, I don't know if you watched the documentary, I haven't watched it. But yeah, there is something about, as confusing as it is communicated, a lot of times there is a certain clarity and a creative vision that comes through. And I think that's what a lot of us kind of strive for when we create something, an uncompromising commitment to having it turn out the way that we want. A lot of times in the middle of a creative process, we start with the compromising real early. You know, we have a vision and we can't hold on to it long enough to see it through. And it turns into something completely different than what we had in mind to begin with. And you kind of get, and that can be okay. But I think that there is something pretty compelling about someone who is insistent on having the image in their mind be produced with exacting detail in the world. And I think a lot of times, you know, we admire that, for better or worse. it kind of cuts against the idea of the genius and focuses on a genius, but even people like him, and we were talking about Michael Jackson previously, they clearly and openly acknowledge the influences in people who kind of came before them. So definitely can appreciate that. All right. So here we go. We are ready to go to the next prompt. Let's get ready to do that. All right, here we go. What's the most uncomfortable thing that you've done this week? That is the question right now. What's the most uncomfortable thing that you have done this week? The theme is education and learning things. And I think whenever we're learning, when learning happens, usually there is a little bit of discomfort. There's a little bit of discomfort that comes with growth. It's a signal of a new wire connecting in your brain, and sometimes that doesn't feel smooth. There's a struggle phase that you have to go through. Even if you're looking for flow, deep engagement usually comes after a moment or a period of struggle, right? So what is an uncomfortable thing that you've done this week? Something that you might have overcome. Most uncomfortable thing that you've done this week. Give that a moment of your time and consideration. And we're going to step away as you work on that one. We're going to step away for just a moment. We do have a full staff of managers, so I hope that you're able to engage with the folks in the chat while I step off mic for just a second in a little personal intermission here. Okay, here we go. So Mez is going to go back to sleep, maybe? That's not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. Someone anonymously says, it's all uncomfortable, to be honest, not gonna lie. It's all uncomfortable. whoever anonymously shared that, the fact that you're still here and that you're still in the game despite the discomfort, hopefully there will be some things that fall into the realm of manageable for you. Hopefully there'll be some things in your life that become a little bit more manageable. So for Sleeping Mesmer, it says, I talked about my emotions. Ugh, that was tough. It was uncomfortable. Someone anonymously shares that I told my crush how I felt. It was uncomfortable, but it wasn't so bad. It's out there. You put it out there. You put it out there. Cool. Hopefully we'll see how it goes from here, Anonymous. So for Miss, the uncomfortable thing was going to court to testify about my case, as this man shows up late and badgers the whole courthouse and faces no accountability. I cried in public. I'm better now, I guess. Yeah, that's pretty rough. So someone anonymously shares that the uncomfortable thing that I did was slack. I slacked on my greatest potential. Well, I think it's good if you consider slacking. If you find discomfort in slacking, then maybe the opposite of that might create some momentum for you, if that's what you are, if that's what you're aiming for, right? So the Slack app, there's a question about the Slack app. It's actually a messaging and productivity. It's the opposite of Slack, honestly. I don't know why they chose that name. It's a messaging app. So Nova Ancient says that this week I found a glitch in the gears of Invasion Chicago, and now I have to reset and fix it in the next round. So the discomfort of trying to get something done, running into a glitch, having to go back. Yeah, that's not comfortable. Whenever you put forth an effort, it doesn't work out, have to go back and redo it. It can be a little uncomfortable, especially if you're not anticipating it. So Alexa says, the uncomfortable thing for me was to work a 6-hour shift without so much as a break and overdoing my walking. It was unfunny, but I have to get used to it. So there's always a learning curve or a comfort curve related to starting a new job. Got to get used to it, got to get acclimated to it. Although, it seems like you should have had a break in there somewhere. Seems like there should have been at least a break somewhere in there. Sometimes if we can voluntarily put ourselves in uncomfortable situations, it makes it easier to deal with the ones that we can't anticipate. We have it's called resilience. when you are able to bear the discomfort because you've sort of conditioned yourself to stand up, then that kind of discomfort, it kind of builds resilience when you can sit in those spaces And it also makes it so that, it helps you stand out. So it's a powerful trait to be able to endure some discomfort. Kind of is a prerequisite for being a leader. All right. So here we go. We got another response here. Hufflepuff's Badger says, I discuss lighter topics when I'm feeling uncomfortable or emotionally low or drained. Like right now, I'm emotionally low from attempting to graduate this year. It's been an exhausting year. But I don't know, are you almost at the end? You got how much time do you have where this is going to be, in this phase of your life? How much time do you have left? So a month and a few weeks left and you'll be on to the next challenge. I think discomfort it gives us a view or an understanding how valuable impermanence is. There are few things that are permanent, including whatever you are feeling or going through right now, whether it's good or bad, or whether you're judging it as good or bad. It is likely to be impermanent, and you can take solace in that. It's like, I can hang on for a little bit longer because it's going to get better. It's going to get different. It might not get better. It's going to get different. And then we can kind of get used to whatever the new thing is. All right, let's get ready to go to another prompt here. So we're coming down to the end of the month. Let's take a second and broaden our view. We talked about the uncomfortable things that we learned this week. Let's take a view of the month, and maybe we can derive a theme. We can derive a theme for the month. So April has been about blank. May will be about blank. If you look back over April, what would you say has been a dominant theme? The most prevalent goal or the overriding emotion? What has April been about for you? And then looking ahead, what are your intentions for May? Will it be different? Will your focus shift? So yeah, April has been about blank, and May will be about blank. Of course, we can't control it. We can intend it, and we'll have to deal with it as it kind of unfolds. But we can set our intention and guide our efforts to the best of our ability in a specific direction. So what do you think? This question kind of ties to the idea of seasonality that we discuss from time to time. Things occur in season. So April may have been a season for a certain type of activity. And maybe it's time to shift, or maybe the season continues. So for Miss, April has been about letting go, and May will be about receiving. April has been about letting go, and May has been about receiving. So for Noble Ancient, April has been about development of Invasion Chicago. May will be success in each project and take on regardless. I'm excited for the days to come, each day on its own. So Marie says, for me, April has been about preparing for May. May will be about preparing for June, so forth and so on. Preparing for the future is devastatingly important. So I guess the question I have for Marie is, what are you preparing for? What is it about May what is it about what you did in April prepares you for May? Where are you living in all of this preparation? Marie's like, mind your business. I know what I'm doing. Yeah, I mean, it's like, absolutely. Yeah, there's got to be some living at some point. There is, we can continue to ask the question, what are you going to do with that duck? What you gonna do with that duck? You gonna put it in, get it in a row? Yeah, because they say we're gonna put our ducks in a row. All right, so the ducks are in a row. What you gonna do with that duck now? Now that they're in a row, what you gonna do with those ducks? Yeah, what you gonna do with those ducks, baby? Here we go. So Alexis Autumn Elf says, April has been about starting SeaWorld. May about saving for Phoenix. And all that comes soon. So you started the job and now it's time to start saving up for your trip. Someone anonymously says, April has been about simply being human. May will be about picking up the slack that's human left behind. So I've been existing in April, and now I got to pick up the pieces. I mean, there's this idea of entropy, I think, is what you are fighting against. The natural tendency of things when left alone to just slowly deteriorate. It's just this weird thing where if you don't do anything, if you just let things be, naturally they're just gonna kind of fall apart. If you leave it alone, it's gonna eventually just decay and fall apart. So you know that there is a certain level of maintenance and care that you are a steward of your existence. Yes, we exist and it's valuable that we do so, but we are our stewards. We have to take care of ourselves. And there are a variety of different things that even existing requires of us if we want to exist with a level of capacity and clarity, and if we have something inside of us that we want to express, there's a level of activity that's going to be required of you to make it so that you can have that happen, right? So, and none of this is a statement on your value. I think it's a statement that because you have value, because you have inherent value that is not tied to anything that you do, you should treat yourself as someone who has value. And you do that by expressing your potential, you do that by creating the circumstances in your life that you can thrive. And it's not that the doing creates the value, it's that the value necessitates the doing. It's a denial of your value to just decay. All right. Are we ready to recap? Let us know. I think we might be ready to recap. Here's your screenshot moment. Somebody shared something in the meantime, so let me share before we get into it. April taught me autonomy. May I am knowing my worth and surrendering into the divine, flowing and not forcing. I'm going to surrender into the divine. Flow, not force. Appreciate that, Rebecca. I talked about impermanence, and even lessons aren't permanent. We need reminders, right? So as we get ready to recap, let's look for some key takeaways. So first, we started the conversation talking about the scene community that we're plugged into and what we gain, what we learn, how that community and scene helps us grow. Then we started thinking about who we could study under that would help us as well. It's all about growth and learning. A lot of different ways that you do that. You can learn and grow in the context of an exchange within a community or scene. You can learn and grow under the tutelage and guidance of a master of the craft that you are pursuing as an apprentice. We have the things that we've learned recently, wherever they came from, and it's important to kind of consolidate and document and acknowledge and synthesize those lessons so that we can apply them more effectively, keep them top of mind, reflect on them, own the lesson, so that you can you won't exist without problems just because you learned a lesson, but you can advance to more, a higher level of problem. The problem's not going to go away. Your capacity is going to increase, and you'll be able to deal with other types of problems. You're not going to have a life without problems, but you'll get more interesting ones rather than repeating the same old ones over and over again. So we talked a little bit about discomfort, the things that you have done this week that were maybe necessary but uncomfortable. And you should always celebrate your ability to endure those uncomfortable situations to get to the other side and express more of what's possible for you rather than shying away and resting in a state of denial. Let's see what we have here. And then finally, we just try to take a look at an inventory, so to speak, of the month. Like April had a theme for you, maybe something that was a primary activity. And then here we are, May is around the corner. What are your intentions for May? What is a theme that you might follow for May? So, This is awesome. I love this. We got some key takeaways. Let's take a look here. My sincere key takeaway from this ideal episode is that I have so much more to learn in my craft as a game designer and someone who enjoys fun to match. Another killer lesson, said G. Thanks. All right, Noble. I'm glad that you had some takeaways from today. Always be learning. Always having more to learn. And being able to acknowledge the need for continued growth. That's great. Another key takeaway. So that was Noble's. Let me show it to you. I know I read it. So Miss says, it is a denial of your value to just decay. It's a denial of your value to just decay. That's the key takeaway from Miss. Sometimes when we're having these conversations, there are moments that I feel like the whole point of the conversation was to come to a specific point. And the key takeaways that you share with me, let me know what some of those points might be. So I appreciate you all for sharing what it is that you are taking away from your time here. So Marie says, G, you provide a safe place for people to come together, be themselves, and self-reflect so that we may grow and become better. Your platform is very much appreciated. Well, Marie, I appreciate you for being here and for sharing your experience with us. Everybody comes here from a different place with a different perspective, and it's all valuable. So thank you so much for sharing all that you do. Appreciate it. So I'm going to get ready to say goodbye to our folks listening and watching other platforms. We're going to hang out with the VIPs for a bit longer, but I thank you so much for being here, folks. And YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, all the other places. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend.